Good day, Dazzling Blue Kale, and I've been wanting to get this in for a good couple of weeks, and today is the day, which is great. Let's just have a quick look at the root system because I haven't looked at them recently. Oh yeah, pretty decent and not too root bound, which is great. How many have we got? I think 4. 1, 2, 4, and this is 12. So I gave Vivi 4 here are going to a fellow plotter, and these are going in the ground. So I'm just going to lay them out. I always like to take my modular sown plants or plantlets or starts, as you call in America, out of their modules and into a tray, because I find it easier to plant them out from like this. When I have the modular tray with me, I find it a little bit more awkward, but also it's a good opportunity, I thought, before I put them out, to show you that this is obviously here you can see this one here. This has grown to the depth of the module, obviously, not surprisingly. That's the level of the compost in the module. But as these are brassicas, I'm going to be planting them a good couple of inches deeper. And so I'll be planting them up to about here or down to about here. So the hole I'm going to be planting in will be about 2 inches deeper than this modular depth here. And the reason I'm doing that is brassicas really like to be firmed in, and with winds that we get here, which are can be quite strong sometimes, it's really good to have them planted deep and firm so that they don't rock about too much. These are most probably going to reach a height of about maybe 2.5 to 3 foot, something like that. Obviously, if you have things like Brussels sprouts, which are much bigger, then you might have to stake those as well. But we don't have Brussels sprouts this year because they all got munched. So yeah, these Dazzling Blue Kale, time for them to be laying out into their bed. It's really interesting, this bed has definitely got better soil than the bed next to it. Not quite sure why. Take that leaf off. So that is going, as you might be able to see, a few inches deeper to get your soil around. Firm it nicely. Bring the soil around again and firm it in again. I can feel it beginning to rain, which wasn't forecast today. I'm going to get on and do this relatively quickly. That is all of the Dazzling Blue Kale in, all 12 of them, and they've now been netted against pigeon damage. Yeah, the big thing this year, pigeon damage, and magpies as well. On our right we have the Dazzling Blue Kale netted. On the left, if you remember, we've got Lollo Biondo and a white endive as well, or pale green endive, again netted because of pigeons. And just as a reminder, these lettuce, you can see these 3 green lettuce here, here and here, that's pigeon damage. It's odd what they choose to go after and what they choose not to. Our beetroot here haven't really been munched, nor these turnips, but a day or so after putting in these beetroot up here, some of them had been pecked. Can you see here the sort of misshapen leaves due to the edges being pecked, and over there as well. But yeah, oh, I'm so pleased to have got those Dazzling Blue Kale in, and 4 to give away too, which is fabulous. I've given them a water. I think that might have been on the footage that I've just taken, and I then netted them, as you can see, and I'll be leaving them for about 15 minutes and then watering through the netting. So giving them 2 good waterings spaced 15 to 20 minutes apart, which is grand. Very pleased to have got that Dazzling Blue Kale in. I've been meaning to do it for a while, though I was pleased that when I did take them out of the modules that they weren't root bound. That was really good. So as I say, quite a bit deeper, 2 inches deeper each of them, well in, firmed in, and given a good water. And I will give them a second water, as I said, but I'll be doing that before I go home. Been chatting for the last sort of half hour with fellow plotters here, as one does, and have been given a little gift, which is really lovely. This is a courgette that I want to grow next year. I know what variety it is. Really liked it. I found it was like a summer, instead of being like a summer squash, like a courgette, I found it was a bit like a bit more meaty, like a winter squash in summer, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I really did like it, and that one will be roasted, I think. In fact, I have no idea what we're going to have this evening, so it might be had this evening with something. What is today? Today is Tuesday, so it is the first segment of a week at the plot, this time on a Tuesday, which is good. What will I be doing the rest of the week? I've given one of my perennial kale away. The 2 that I had, I've given one away. So that other perennial kale needs to go in. I need to take some cuttings. I need to do various things. I also need to strim. I'm out of twine, so I must make a note to get myself some twine. But yeah, right. I'm not going to waffle on. I'm going to go home and have a cup of tea. It was really quite warm earlier in the sun. It's got quite overcast now, but I'm quite pleased about that in many ways, and I hope it's the same overnight, because last night we had our first touch of frost, which for the 3rd week in September is not known to me, certainly not here. No damage, and I am covering the squash with some fleece, but you know what, yeah, I think that means the tomatoes are going to have to come out. I think that is the sensible thing to do. I don't think they would freeze, but I don't really want them to get too frosted either, so I'll ponder that and not waffle on. That's what I'll do. See you again very soon. Bye. Good day. It's Thursday afternoon, rather sunny, as you can see. though the sun is clearly getting lower in the sky because these paths in midsummer are lit up for quite a lot longer, until about 7 or even 8 o'clock, and it's now 4:30 and you can see they're shaded. But you might also be able to see they have been strimmed. I had a strimming day yesterday. The plot needed it. I have to say, as I was strimming these 3 paths here and here, I was thinking, can I turn these to woodchip paths? I mean, I know I can, but can I, in my heart, say goodbye to grass and go over to woodchip? I'd sort of decided, yes, I definitely was. But when I was strimming yesterday, it was sort of like, oh, can I really do that? Anyway, never mind. Gosh, there's some quiet planes taking off at the moment. Maybe they won't be quiet as they go over us. The tomatoes are looking sort of quite sad. Given them a water, but they're definitely flagging now. And I will, by the end of the week, I think, have taken all the fruit off and let it ripen in the poly or in the greenhouse, or take some home to ripen. Yeah, so we're doing that. The squash that we do have in here, you can see a very small uchiki curry there. There's about 3 others. They will be coming out in the next day or so as well. Yeah, I just feel it's really autumnal. I mean, it's autumn, so you know it is autumnal, but sort of later autumn than it is. And I know I keep on saying that, but hey ho. This morning we were up early because we wanted to get to Kew Gardens. At the moment, for the next 7 days until the end of September, Kew has early opening for members, so it usually opens at 10 o'clock in the morning. For members, you can go and it's open at 8 o'clock. So it's really nice to get there during the opening months, which I think are May to September. I think might be April to September, but I think May to September, and make the most of it. You know, we go there and there's hardly anyone there, so it's just fabulous. So we did that and then came home. I've done a day's work at my desk, which is great, and then I thought I'd just come down to do a little job which pertains to something that happened at Kew Gardens this morning. I was looking at this fabulous horse chestnut tree. I took a photo of the nameplate of the tree. The bark was just amazing. I don't know how old the tree was, certainly decades and decades, and it just looked magnificent. The sky was so blue, the sun was out, the shadows in the bark was just wonderful, and I was just admiring it. And then suddenly I felt a bang on my head, and then I felt another bang on my head. 2 horse chestnuts. Yeah, and of course I've taken that as a sign that these want to be planted, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a 2-litre pot. Is it a 2-litre pot? Yeah, 2-litre pot, and I'm going to put a mix of soil and compost in, maybe about 60% soil and 40% compost, and then I'm going to sort of nestle these down a couple of inches and cover them with wire, because I think squirrels would quite like this, and I'm going to put them into our grow house. I think that would be the sensible place to put them. So yeah, I'm going to do that, and who knows, we might have our own chestnut trees in a year, or well, not a tree, but you know, saplings in a year or so. So fingers crossed for that. I've also got this walnut that just appeared on the top side of the plot about a month ago. Then it was green, the skin was green. Now it's sort of quite brown and dry and brittle. But what I'm going to do with this one is it needs stratification. It needs cold to really get going. So I'm going to peel off all of the skin on the outside. You can see, I mean, they make ink out of these things. Michelle Merchsani, she makes ink out of walnuts. I think you can see, if I take the skin off, you can see how there's the walnut colour at the top that we know so well. But down here, the skin has stained the actual shell black. So yeah, I'm going to peel off, scrape off, I think, the rest of this outside skin. Then I'm going to put it into some compost in a plastic bag. I'm going to seal the plastic bag with a clip. Not allow too much air in the plastic bag, and then it's going to sit in a drawer of our fridge for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months, something like that. I'll check it, what's it now, September, October, November, December. I'll check it on Christmas Day. I'll check it on, no, I'll do it on Boxing Day. I'll check it on Boxing Day and see if anything has happened. And if it hasn't, I'll just leave it in there. It's a highly scientific experiment, of course. If it does germinate, then the nut will open, and the case of the nut will open, and a little sort of shoot will come out. And if that does happen, then I'll be planting it again. I'll be planting it as I've done with the chestnuts, into a 2 litre with soil and compost. But yeah, just a bit of fun. I mean, it appeared from nowhere, so it must have been a squirrel. But the closest walnut tree that I know to here is actually at the community gardens. There's a walnut tree there. It's most probably now about 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 or 17 years old. And it regularly, when I was at the community gardens, it would regularly be, squirrels would get into it and want to take the nuts away, particularly the nuts when they were sort of relatively young. And I think this is what happened with this one. So yeah, there we are. Anyway, I'm waffling. So I'm taking a sign from being knocked on the head by 2 horse chestnuts at Kew Gardens to plant those, and I'm going to be stratifying this little beauty in my fridge over the coming months, and we'll see what happens. I'll update you on Boxing Day on this, and as soon as there's any germination from these 2 horse chestnuts, I'll let you know. I will be back in a day or so doing something else. See you then. Bye. Good day. It's now Saturday afternoon. I was down here this morning clearing or starting to clear beds. Cleared the squash, the Uchiki curry and a crown prince from here. Crown prince hasn't changed in 2 months, I reckon, in terms of its shape and colour, which is really bizarre. I was delighted to see that a fellow plotter who occasionally gives me eggs had taken 2 bolting lettuce from here. That was great, because I obviously told her she could. And then I started harvesting on this bed, and there are now quite a few plants. There's sort of 4 along here that have no fruit on. This middle one over here at the back. So that's going to be my job this afternoon, starting to clear this bed of plants that have no tomatoes on. And this morning I did take off the tomatoes that were blushing or were becoming blemished in one way or another, and they're now some are going to be coming home with me to ripen at home, and the others are in a tray in the greenhouse. And then I decided to take out the courgettes from here and put in the small Taunton Dean perennial kale that we've got, which is the same as these 2 that I put in last week, and weed this bed a bit. It still needs a bit of weeding. And this morning when I was doing this job here of removing tomatoes, I noticed that this pepper, this one here that did produce, is really trying to go for it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into a pot, cut it down and take it home, and hopefully Richard won't notice it. I'll if I do that later, I'll show you then. And then I was looking over here at these squash, and I was going to start thinning them out in terms of finding out which ones which had fruits went back to which plant. But I decided just to leave them there. We're going to have a sunny week again next week and a warmer week, so I'm going to leave these here for another week. And the tomatoes here that we do have fruits on still, which you can see is a fair number of them, I'm just going to tie them up and leave them for another week as well, and then review it again next week. But things where there's only sort of one, that will go home, and that will go into the freezer actually to make green tomato curry. So yeah, this is my job now, thinning out the plants in this bed. When I say thinning, I mean removing the plants I no longer want in the bed. About an hour and a half later, and I've given this, or these 2 beds here, a pretty good tidy read of tomatoes and taken a lot of tomatoes out. The ones that remain in there have got fruit on them that I hope may ripen next week, or continue to ripen through next week with the slightly better weather. And then on my hands and knees giving it, or them, the beds, a decent weed. Where the weeds are tight around the roots, I've left them there for the time being. And then over here at the bottom of this, one of our windmills, a tomato must have fallen there because they're all seedlings of tomatoes. So I think they'll mostly just go into the compost, but I'll think about that. Around the base there is a self-seeded marjoram from there. I've taken the cinquefoil as much as I can today off here. I've left a dock leaf and a dandelion in there just to, well, the dock leaf I think I'll move. I'll pot on or pot up and move. The dandelion I'm just leaving it there to give bees some food and other pollinators. This is going to go to Vivi. It's one of the I'll put the name of it. You might be able to see it better that side. More self-seeded marjoram and pansies under there. I haven't done anything with that pepper, but I will do next week. And then if we come around, oh yeah, so this has got cinquefoil in. This is all the sort of weeds, or most of the weeds, and has got cinquefoil in. This is most of the detritus of the tomatoes. That will definitely go into our hot bin to start off our hot bin again. And then this might go in if it gets to a decent temperature. We'll look at that next week maybe. I've potted on this self-seeded marjoram to go to somebody else. So yeah, I hope you'll agree that those two beds are weeded, well, have far fewer weeds in them than they did before. Still work to do on them, but yeah, and I tied up some tomatoes as well. Yeah, I thought it was best to do that. But boy, is it dry. Yes, it is really dry. We haven't had decent rain. We haven't had any rain for quite a few days now, maybe a week or more. And we haven't really had any decent rain for about 10 days, maybe a bit more than that. Well, that's what it feels like. This September has just, it started slowly, but it's just rushed past over the last sort of 3 weeks. It really has. You know, we're only a few days away from the end of September now, and I find that really quite worrying. We'll already be a month into autumn in 3 days. I mean, that's just madness. The speed that this month has gone. I suppose there's been a lot going on. But at the moment, as you can see, it's about getting the beds and the plot ready for winter. In some cases, like with the tomato bed, there's going to be crops that are going to be sown into there in the next few weeks, broad beans in that case. The bed that had our dwarf beans in, I think that's most probably going to have garlic this year. So that's sort of okay. But various other beds over the next sort of maybe 10 days, I think there's going to be an awful lot of weeding. Possibly with the warm weather next week, an awful lot of watering as well. And then I'll have to think about the tomato bed, excuse me, tomato bed up by the polytunnel. What I do with that. I mean, they've all got tomatoes coming on them, but will they be too late? I mean, they are fortunate sowings, you know. They weren't sowings, were they? They were cuttings that I took that have grown into plants and delivered a harvest. Whether that's as green tomatoes to make green tomato curry, whether that's as green tomatoes with a slight blush on that we know are going to ripen, or whether it's as ripe tomatoes maybe next week, it's delivered another harvest from us. And that cost virtually nothing. A bit of compost and some hormone rooting powder. So, you know, and time watering and all of that. But yeah, it's I feel as though the plot, next week we will be into my first growing week of my growing year, because as I said before, it's October to September, that's what I count it. So I feel that we're actually in a good position at the moment to be going into our next growing season. The beds largely are tidy or have crops growing in them. The edging is a worry. The edging is a worry. Not a worry as in a major worry, but can I do what Vivi did? Can I go with beds here without wooden edges? I mean, I'm going to have to go for it anyway, because we might only be here another year. And if we are, I'm certainly not going to spend, you know, 200, 300, 400 pounds or whatever, replacing all the edging of our edge beds, or even the planks of our raised beds. That is not going to happen. So I will just have to give it a go. It's as simple as that. So yeah, what am I thinking about? I'm going to have to do that. The woodchip paths, the grass paths, I know someone said on Planet Vegetaria that woodchip has really worked for them, and then they explain why. And I sort of think it's the sensible thing to do here, but my heart is so set on grass, it really is. Hey ho, first world problems, isn't it? Other people are being bombed to oblivion and don't even have a small patch of bare earth to sow seeds. So yeah, first world problems, first world rich country problems as well. Yeah. Anyway, I won't get political, but obviously there is an orange idiot on the other side of the Atlantic, and there are an awful lot of people in politics around the globe that are following in that orange idiot's footsteps as well, which is worrying for humanity. Yeah. Anyway, we won't get into that. Right. Whatever is going on in your garden, your growing space, or your allotment, I hope you are getting on top of things like I am here, and you're preparing for either the winter to come and the spring that will bring about lots of sowings, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're getting into your spring, you're revving up to get sowing and growing for your summer. Fabulous. So yes, I will see you on Planet Vegetaria as we go through the week with segments of a week at the plot. Please do support us on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Richard and Paul, if you so wish financially. Please do join Planet Vegetaria if that is your ilk. That's our Facebook group. Facebook, don't really do a lot on Facebook anymore, but our Facebook group is really important to us and many. Obviously, we're putting out quite a few videos at the moment, so, you know, please do watch those. Watch a few adverts, because that always helps. And yeah, just hopefully you're enjoying what we do. Any comments, any questions, any suggestions, please leave those down below. And I will see you really soon on Planet Vegetaria, or in a week's time on YouTube for another full upload. See you then, and in the meantime, happy growing. Bye.